Hey, yo. What's up, guys? The ZNT Wrestling Show is back on a, after a rough weekend. We lost one of the greats, man. I don't think I would feel comfortable going on without at least talking about Scott Hall a little bit. Fuck. I mean, how do you prep for something like that?
3 hours ago. I know a couple days ago it was announced, I reported that Scott Hall had been on life support.
Yeah.
His family and his best friend Kevin Nash had been updating us about the situation, and knowing from personal experience when they announced today that they'd be taking him off of life support, we knew it was only a matter of time. So
I know.
Rest in peace to the Chico. Real quick, I mean, any favorite memories of Scott Hall? For me, Scott Hall was one of the first wrestlers I ever saw as a kid when him and the NWO came back to the WWE, and me and my brother just had a great time watching him get his ass kicked by Stone Cold Steve Austin. It wasn't until later on in the years where I got to go back and see what he did in the 90s and what he did, you know, turning the business upside down on his head with jumping to WCW and doing his whole thing with the
Outsiders,
and the NWO and the Outsiders, and you know, even just as recently, his influence has been on the business. And I think it's safe to say, with the exception of like maybe I want to say that Scott Hall was probably the first time you looked at a bad guy and thought it was cool. Like,
how could you hate him? Scott Hall, apparently, so Razor Ramon made his debut in the WWF back in the year 1992, if you can believe that. And the character was very much influenced by Tony Montana from the movie Scarface, and which is kind of ironic because the story going around is that Vince McMahon had never seen the movie Scarface, so he was just kind of, you know, creating this character out of like what he thought was so original. But the thing about Scott Hall that always captivated me, like going back and rewatching it, you know, after I was introduced to him with the NWO, he was just so damn cool. He had so much freaking charisma, and he never really hurt anybody in the ring. For a big man back then, for a guy like that to be as good of a worker as he was, I mean, who could forget the WrestleMania 10 ladder match? Who can honestly... I can sit here comfortably today and say that that's one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. And Razor Ramon, I know a lot of people talk about Shawn Michaels being Mr. WrestleMania, but Razor Ramon was just as responsible for that ladder match being as good as it was.
Those two ladder matches, a lot of people forget.
SummerSlam 95.
They had a rematch for the Intercontinental title. Two things. Number one, I think they always forget that Razor Ramon won that ladder match at WrestleMania.
He sure did.
He, you know, even though that Shawn Michaels made the match famous, remember, Ramon was the one standing on that ladder, holding up those two titles at the end of the match.
Yes, sir.
Him and Shawn Michaels proved that even back then, you didn't need crazy high spots. Remember, that was back then when just jumping off the ladder was an extreme spot. They really worked the match with the ladder. You go back and you watch those matches, and it was a wrestling match with a ladder. You know, they weren't building crazy structures with it. They weren't jumping off a 20-foot ladder through a table. They weren't, you know, breaking themselves in half. They were having a wrestling match with a ladder. And it's something you don't see anymore. And they
it really isn't.
Revolutionized that idea.
Yeah, and Shawn and Razor...
One ladder in that match.
Yeah, Shawn and Razor revolutionized a whole new era of high spots and all that. Man, yeah, Razor Ramon, rest in peace. Scott Hall, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah,
four-time...
Other favorite memory I want to bring up is that
you
could forget that him, you know, even in defeat, Hall would be responsible for putting over the 1-2-3 kid.
Yes, who can forget?
AKA X-Pac. In an era where, you know, enhancement matches were all over the place on Monday Night Raw, Scott Hall was just waltzing into the ring to do another job for the 1-2-3 kid, or who was just going by Sean Waltman at the time. Waltman got the surprise victory. Yeah, he got the surprise victory, and that gave him the nickname, the 1-2-3 kid, for that upset. So that was a prime example of Hall did the job for Waltman, and it launched his career.
It sure did.
For Razor Ramon, I don't think X-Pac, as we're going to talk about in the show, would have, you know, achieved as much fame as he did.
Yeah, 1/5 of the click. 4-time Intercontinental Champion, a 7-time WCW Tag Team Champion. I mean, he's one of the greatest to never win the World Championship. I can
2-time Hall of Famer.
Yep, 2-time Hall of Famer. Yep, with Solo and with the NWO just a year ago, which is nuts to think about. But Razor, thank you for the memories. This one's for you, bad guy. We're going to be talking about a show that,
the quote that I've been seeing all over today, and it's going to choke me up. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
Yep.
Too sweet in heaven, Scott Hall.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for the memories. But folks, here we are, once again, ZNT Wrestling Show. We are looking at the show that you guys voted in to replace Elimination Chamber a month ago. I'm telling you, with theater coming back, here we are. Here we are. We're at this point, my friends. But hit that subscribe button if you're new. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. It really does mean the world. Honestly, I am so glad that this is the show that was voted in. I have never sat through this show all the way through, from beginning to end. I've seen the main event many times, but as far as a whole, this pay-per-view, hadn't sat through and watched it, and I thought it was pretty damn fun.
It's been a minute for me, because when the WWE Network came out, I made it a goal to watch every single WWE, WCW, and ECW pay-per-view on there, which I did. So it's been a minute since I've watched this. I think this show is infamous for, well, first of all, the February pay-per-view, whether it be No Way Out, whether it be Valentine's Day Massacre, it served something that I wish it would be done in wrestling today, where this is the pay-per-view that basically set up WrestleMania. A lot of what happened on this show would end up culminating in what would happen in WrestleMania, as we'll talk about a lot of these matches. Another thing is there's a lot of, we're going to talk about X-Pac and Kane. And not a lot of people know that this is where all of that build, the tag team, the friendship, the betrayal, all of this culminated at this pay-per-view with this match that they had here. As we talked about in the Royal Rumble, The Rock won the Royal Rumble, but there's a huge controversy that Rock's feet hit the floor first. Oops.
They sure did.
So now
they absolutely did.
100% has a justified point in challenging The Rock for his WrestleMania spot.
Yes, he sure does, and we'll certainly get to that, but first up is actually quite the banger, Tomas. It's for the Intercontinental Championship. Chris Jericho, the undisputed Intercontinental Champion, accompanied by Chyna at this point, which is very interesting. It's much so an alliance built on respect and not romance in this regard. Jericho is defending against the brand new European champion Kurt Angle, who had beaten Val Venus on an episode of SmackDown to claim this gold. And he wants to become the first ever, not the first ever, but he wants to become the Euro Continental Champion. And Kurt, of course, is walking to the ring, cutting this earnest babyface-style promo, and he's saying the damnedest things. He tells this crowd, Hartford, Connecticut, by the way, he's like the Hartford Whalers, I'll leave Connecticut, but unlike the Whalers, I will return one day to give you guys the hero you deserve. Oh, yeah, it's true. And that's very true, yeah.
We've talked about it before, but it bears bringing up again. Angle does have this style of, he's not necessarily saying anything wrong, but he just knows how to rub you the wrong way.
Nope. And the Hartford Whalers would, in fact, become the Carolina Hurricanes, and they're still thriving in the NHL right now. And actually, I don't know if they're thriving in the NHL. I don't follow that.
I think the best way to describe Angle's just how absurd he is. Like, imagine if you were in a show and after the show, he came up to you and said, hey, good job. Except for when you tripped on that part and you fucked up your line there and you missed your entrance there. But other than that, good job. Like,
what a swell guy.
Knows how to fucking rub you the wrong way. And not necessarily,
what a swell guy he is. But Jericho also cuts a very fun promo on his way to the ring, calling his opponent Kirk Angel, as it would become a very popular saying around this point in the year 2000. But honestly, watching this opener, this only lasted about 10 minutes, but this is one of the better openers I can remember us ever talking about on this pod. These two guys clicked together instantly, and I can go as far as saying this is the first great Kurt Angle pay-per-view match that we would get out of Kurt Angle throughout his entire WWE tenure.
When we're still knee-deep into the Attitude Era, This was just one of those examples. This was just a really good wrestling match.
Yes.
And one of my biggest gripes with the Attitude Era is, as you mentioned before, titles are flopping and swapping and all over the place, playing hot potato.
They
every
sure
single
are.
week, not just on Raw, not just on SmackDown, but as pay-per-views as well. But I feel like this was a good instance of this title being on the line in this instance, because Angle wants to hold both titles. Jericho had just won the Intercontinental Championship from the Royal Rumble. China got her own entrance, which kind of threw me off for a second.
Yeah.
And now she's
China was a manager getting her own entrance.
Back with Jericho there, but these guys click really good. Really good suplexes. There's a superplex from Angle really early on in the match. Jericho's hitting the Bulldog. It's just really good. I would like to see these guys in a 1997 ECW setting. Because I feel like these guys would just be given 30 minutes to go out there and just tear the house down.
If only Raven hadn't crucified the Sandman in 1996, you can only imagine what one of those matches would have been like. But yeah, to your point, so many amazing suplexes. Angle was working the arm a lot, and Jericho, phenomenal selling for sure. Kurt Angle does hit the Angle Slam, which they were calling the Olympic Slam at this point, and there's some really, really amazing near falls in this. The crowd was on the edge of their seats, as they should be for an opening match like this. But then when Jericho slaps on the walls of Jericho, match gets a little bit more complicated. Angle gets to the ropes. Action spills out to the floor. Angle tries to hit Jericho with his European Championship, but then China gets involved. Kurt tries to hit China with a chair, and it eventually gets back into the ring. Jericho goes for the lion salt. Angle gets the other championship, the IC title belt, holds it up as Jericho flips into the lion salt, which was a clean-ass counter, if I say so myself. The ref was totally preoccupied with what China was up to. Kurt cheats to win, and he is a double champion. And he would be celebrating throughout the entire show, as we would see, all throughout the concession stand.
Before we get to that, in a rare moment of continuity, Tim White, who was knocked out earlier in the match, he gets up and he argues with Earl Hebner, trying to tell him, hey, Angle used the title. There was a lot of interference in this match. They're arguing over, but it's pro wrestling. They rarely go back and reverse the decision. But like you said, I think that was my favorite part about this pay-per-view that wasn't a match, was just Angle celebrating like he won the fucking World Series by himself.
Right.
He is in the consent. He is all over the concourse of this building in matches and matches. He still has as much energy as he did after he won the title.
Oh yeah, probably
wild.
Probably preaching abstinence along the way to all the listening ears out in the concourse area. But this is, I'm comfortable giving this 4. This was a great match. I would have loved for it to have gotten 15 minutes. It could have been even better, but for what it was for an opener, this certainly did its job.
I'm going to give it 3.5 for that reason. This was a very solid wrestling match and may be the best wrestling match on this show. But like I said, I wish it would have got more time. There's a lot of short matches on here, and I feel like you could have cut out a couple of these matches, definitely given more time to this
and we'll get to some of those matches, won't we? We'll get to some of those.
Total waste of time, and I could not imagine paying $50 for a couple of these matches on this show.
Oh, yeah. Who would want to pay $50 for some of these matches? And we'll get to that. But this next match, Tomas, is certainly not one of those matches. It's kind of interesting on paper looking at it today in 2022.
We have ourselves a little tag team title grudge match between quite arguably the most famous tag team in ECW going up against the most famous and popular tag team in the WWF currently. It's the Dudley Boyz challenging the New Age Outlaws for the WWF tag team titles.
Yep.
I'm going to go as far as saying, even though, when it came to popular acts in the WWF around this time, I'm going to say this right now. Rock, Austin, New Age Outlaws. Not DX, New Age Outlaws. Because when the Outlaws come out, you tell me there is not a single person in the audience that does not know their intro word for word for word. It is pinpoint on how popular these guys were.
It's like Enzo and Cass, only better.
Exactly.
It's hard. It's a hard point to argue, my friend. And keeping in mind, Austin was still injured at this point. So you could honestly sit here and say that the New Age Outlaws were the second most popular act on this show, only behind The Rock, who we'll get to. But the Dudley Boyz come out, they're full-blown heels. The Outlaws were heels at this point as well, but they were playing the very much the baby faces in peril for this.
The Outlaws were always the lesser of two evils, and they were always just hey, these guys are heels, but how can you not like them? They're cool, pun intended, they're badass, you know. A lot of this feud, badass Billy Gunn.
Yeah, no, why would that be a pun, though? This is the one Billy Gunn we're talking about.
The one Billy Gunn. But
yeah.
Speaking of the one Billy Gunn, a lot of this feud is revolving around previously on an episode of SmackDown. I think it was a SmackDown going into this show. Billy Gunn hit the Famouser on Bubba Ray Dudley, I think through a table.
Which is sick bump. Yes.
Yes.
So cool.
Bubba is getting interviewed backstage just asking, you know, like, Billy Gunn got a good the one Billy Gunn pulled a fast one on Bubba Ray Dudley, and that just fueled him absolutely to just go out there and absolutely kill these guys.
Oh, yeah. And these guys, that's exactly what they did. They went out there and were guns a-blazing. I will say, though, it was a little
stiff.
It was stiff. They only went 5 minutes, and I mean, I can only imagine what a real dream match between these two could have been like. I wish this was that match, but unfortunate circumstances really hindered this match. Number one, like I said, both of these teams are heels at this point, so the crowd really doesn't know who to cheer for. They're leaning definitely more towards the Outlaws, but
I feel like with more time, and to an extent, the modern day comparison would be the Wyatts versus the Shield.
Yeah.
When it came to popularity.
I see where you're coming from there. The Wyatts and the Shield had a classic six-man tag team.
To an extent, the Wyatts and the Shield were given more time and more attention. I feel like triple the time of this match, and it could have been that.
Oh, easily. You add in a stipulation in there, hell, throw in some tables. Why not? Just make it a tag team tables match for the second month in a row.
One thing I feel like, and that's ironic considering the main event is a Hell in a Cell. That's why I think the show is lacking gimmicks.
Yeah, I mean, there's only, like 2 gimmick matches on this show?
Yeah.
Two number one contenders matches that we'll get to, but other than that, there's only 2 stipulation matches. But it's not saying that those were unwarranted stipulations, because as we'll talk about, those are feuds that definitely deserved stipulations at that point. But the other thing that I think was holding this back, Tomas, is very early on, the one Billy Gunn unfortunately suffers a separated shoulder. Bubba Ray Dudley would hit him with a lead pipe on the apron, and that would write him off up until November of the year 2000, unfortunately. But basically, the Dudleys hit the 3D on the Road Dogg, who had to work most of this match by himself, and Devon pins the Road Dogg for the Dudley Boyz to win their first ever WWF Tag Team Championships at this point.
This was, at the time, considered a very controversial upset, because the Dudleys had just come in. They beat the most over tag team in WWF right now, which kind of skyrockets them. And like JR was always saying on commentary, those damn Dudleys. And Jerry Lawler with actually a very funny line saying, like, you know, if the Dudleys ever hear those damn Dudleys, I'm going to tell them it's you saying it.
Oh, yeah. No, it's always JR saying it. But it's just, it's nuts looking back at these shows and saying this is the first WWF Tag Team title win for the Dudley Boyz. It's just wild to think about that.
But won like 25 of them at this point.
More like 25 bazillion tag team titles at this point. But it's a 2.25 star match. These guys worked hard. It was stiff enough, but I would have loved more time. And I think if Billy Gunn hadn't gotten hurt so early in the match, this could have been an instant classic tag team title match. But
absolutely.
Yeah, unfortunate given circumstances basically held this match back from what it could have been. And speaking of unfortunate given circumstances, Tomas, oh my God, you want to talk about a match that I hated paying $50 for? Or one would hate paying $50 for? How about Mark Henry versus Viscera 1-on-1? As Jim Ross would
bring up that the Wikipedia page says the third contest was Viscera versus Mark Henry in a standard match. That's giving it way too much credit.
It's being way too nice. It's being way too nice. Mark Henry comes out with his sexual chocolate theme song, which is I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of a guilty pleasure. A lot of people.
Sexual chocolate gimmick was a guilty pleasure.
Yeah,
And I think sexual chocolate to Mark Henry is like GI Bro to Booker T. It never should have happened, but we're glad it did. We're glad it did.
Oh, I'm glad sexual chocolate happened, but Mark Henry is taking on Viscera as a. Keeping in mind, this shows you how much faith WWE had in this feud. This was a match put together on Sunday Night Heat, like an hour prior to the pay-per-view going on the air. And it's all set around Viscera hitting a gorilla press splash on poor old Mae Young, who had been canoodling with Mark Henry at this point. What a build. What a build.
You know what I would have preferred if you're going to have because this wouldn't be the last time WWE would spring these surprise filler matches on a show. Here's an example. Remember at New Year's Revolution 2005, I want to say, where his mama came to the pay-per-view.
Shelton versus Viscera. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And that match just got made on the spot right then and there. If they're going to do that, at least do it during the pay-per-view in a backstage segment. Just so you can, hey, I got a surprise match that got made on the pay-per-view.
Have Viscera attack Mae Young earlier on in the program.
Yeah, I'm not going to watch Heat and go, well, if Triple H and Mick Foley didn't sell me and The Rock and The Big Show didn't sell me, you know what's going to sell me? Sexual chocolate versus Viscera.
Two super heavyweights going out there and just throwing each other into the steps over and over again. The crowd read right through this. They chanted boring, rightfully so, like right from the get-go. And who would make interference but Mae Young herself runs down to the ring. Viscera gets a little distracted, and then Mark Henry beats Viscera with a scoop slam. Bad match. 0 stars. I didn't like this at all.
Yeah, this was nothing.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll give it credit for is that Viscera hit a spinning heel kick, and that is impressive.
It's impressive, but I could give it a quarter star rating, but what's the point, really, in just giving it a quarter star for a spinning heel kick? It's not good.
Imagine if you did that in 2007.
Is this a match that... No, we're not going to do Big Daddy 5 and his spinning heel kick and his gimmick, but would this have been better with a stipulation, do you think? Because I'm thinking, if WCW...
didn't exist.
If WCW was doing Judy Bagwell on a pole, that I'm not going to make the joke.
Mae Young in a
Mae Young on a pole match, bro. We're gonna put Mae Young, poor old woman, up on the forklift, and she's gonna watch the match from ringside, bro.
No, Mae Young in a shark cage.
Well, we don't want to kill her at this point.
No. I'm gonna be that guy. There's absolutely nothing they could have done to make this match good.
No,
nothing.
Not at all.
Nothing.
We're sitting here joking about it for good reason. So. Thankfully the next match is much better, sir.
Get this. It's Edge and Christian versus the Hardy Boys, Matt and Jeff, and if you consider it, all 4 of these guys are actively wrestling today. That is wild. They are
3 of them, 3 out of the 4 are wrestling in AEW currently, which is nuts. Nuts to think about. And the Hardys are coming out to the same... The Hardys are coming out to the same theme song that they came out to on this show in the rival promotion.
And
what a world.
The one who isn't in AEW is in a main event caliber match at WrestleMania in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
A dream match as a whole different character.
22 years later.
Wrestling is wild, my friends, but
this match is not anything as we're doing today. This is for a #1 contenders match for the WWF Tag Team titles. This match kind of has a weird storyline going in. Terry Runnels is still managing the Hardy Boys at this point. Terry's a little afraid of the Dudley Boys. She's afraid that since the Hardys are mixed up in this match, that the Dudleys are going to come and attack her. And as you know, Bubba Ray has a sick fetish for powerbombing women through a table.
Yeah.
So what she does is she goes out of her way to hire the APA to watch her back. And even Jerry Lawler and JR, they kind of call this out and be like, why is Terry going to the APA when she has the Hardy Boys? They're kind
Right.
of planting the seeds already for what's going to happen in this match.
That's very true.
But this match, they gave a lot of time to this match.
Yeah, let me look at the time real quick. This was a 15-minute match. 15-minute match. These four guys, they know how to work.
17, actually.
They
55.
they know how to work a tag team match, my friend. If their No Mercy ladder match, which is a 5-star match, if I'm being honest, if that's any indication of what they can do with standard tag team rules, I mean, I really don't know what else to tell you guys. These four guys know each other so well. Great athleticism.
I'm not gonna lie. I actually really liked that this was a standard tag team match because you never really got to see that. There was always tables and ladders and chairs and crazy spots. Like, what happens if we just let these guys wrestle?
Right.
And I think they proved that very well on this show.
Yeah, I mean, there's just poetry in motion all over the place. Christian is going for his kill switch, hitting the unprettier and all that stuff. It's great. Great tag team wrestling.
Missile drop kicks galore, tag team action galore.
Twist of fate, atomic drop. It's all the greatest hits of the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian, if I say so myself. But playing into that storyline that we were talking about, for some reason, Terry Runnels starts getting on the apron and she starts berating Matt Hardy. She slaps him in the face, her own man. And then he falls right back into a kill switch from Christian, which was called the Unprettier at that point. Christian pins Matt Hardy in this match. Edge and Christian are the new #1 contenders for the tag titles, which apparently means nothing at this point because both of these teams would challenge the Dudley Boyz at WrestleMania 2000.
But after the match, Jeff goes to pull Terry's hair to get some revenge, and the whole reason why Terry hired the APA finally comes into fruition.
There go the Acolytes.
Was not hired to protect Terry from the Dudleys. They were there to attack the Hardys because they knew she was going to turn on them in this match.
Yep. They the writing was on the wall, literally speaking. But can we talk real quick about this post-match beatdown the APA gave the Hardys here? Poor old Jeff took a Dominator from Farouk, and this poor lad is lucky that he didn't end up like Big E is right now in a hospital with a broken neck. Because Jeff landed right on his fucking head, and I can only imagine, like, man, Jeff got really lucky. I'll just say that much. Accidents happen in wrestling.
Selling.
Yeah. But if you go back and watch the tape, though, Jeff landed right on his damn head. Like, right on his neck. He was folded up like an accordion, as JR would say. And I don't want to fault... obviously, I'm not going to sit here and fault Ron Simmons for this, because accidents happen in wrestling. That's the nature of the game. People get hurt. This stuff is not fake, after all. But... good lord. Like, Matt Hardy also got his head taken off, I believe, with a... Yeah, Bradshaw hit a vicious clothesline from hell on Matt Hardy, and he was out of commission for the rest of the evening, and Terry Runnels was very pleased with her investment for the evening in the Acolyte Protection Agency, as they were called, a brand new gimmick at that point.
Spoiler alert, the APA would have nothing to do with the tag team titles come WrestleMania.
Nope. They would be in the hardcore battle royal. You know, it's
Do you think?
Makes no sense.
You know, I don't want to say dream booking, but what if? You know, here's Marvel's what if. What about WWF what if? What if the APA were added to the match and it was a fatal 4-way ladder match? What if?
I think the APA would be they would be more over as a tag team than they already were. Like, I knew who the APA was when I started watching wrestling, but they weren't like... I thought they were a cool tag team and all, but I didn't see them on as high of a pedestal as the Dudleys, the Hardys, Edge and Christian. I think if the APA were added to that ladder match at WrestleMania, man, could you imagine those Haas spots that they would have had? I mean, Haas's and ladder matches work. Go and watch Revolution. I mean... I'm not...
We had 3 of them.
Yeah, I'm not discrediting the Triangle Ladder match at WrestleMania 2000 by any stretch. It's a classic match, but, I mean, could you imagine how this would have propelled the APA as a tag team? But...
oh, yeah.
If and only if, you can imagine. But this is a great tag team match. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I thought the Terry interference was a little bit discombobulated. You could kind of predict where it was going when she hired the Acolytes before the match, but... you know, it's Edge and Christian versus the Hardys. What else do you want me to say?
I give it 3 3/4. This was a very good match. They gave a lot of time to, and it was very well paced, and ending aside, you know, you don't see, it's a weird diamond in the rough kind of match.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. It is one of the stronger matches on this pay-per-view, quality-wise.
Yeah.
The next
you want
match...
to talk about Waste My Time 2000 edition?
Tazz versus the Big Boss Man, going only a minute 30? Fuck, dude. And it wasn't even because Tazz squashed the Boss Man, and this feud
it was
came
47 seconds officially.
Why did they screw up Tazz this quickly? How could they do that?
Tazz makes his way to the ring, attacks the Boss Man. They throw him in the ring. Tazz tries to slap on the Tazz mission. Prince Albert interferes. That's
what?
it.
Okay, random tag team that we forgot about, the Big Boss Man and Prince Albert, even though they didn't team together at WrestleMania. Like,
it was a random pairing.
What sense does that make? Like,
they proceed to beat down Tazz for 2 minutes, and then Tazz gets back up, and they beat him down some more. They play Boss Man's music. Tazz tries to get up again. I guess they were trying to play it off as they can't keep him down, but it looks like he's a little chump because they keep kicking his ass.
Yeah, that would be like, imagine if you're watching TNA in 2006 and you send the entire... So, like, imagine this hypothetical real quick. You have Christian Cage defending the NWA World Heavyweight title against Samoa Joe. You want to keep Samoa Joe looking strong, so no matter how many times the Christian Coalition beats him down, he always gets back up. But imagine if he gets back up like 5 different times throughout that whole sequence and aftermatch beatdown, and the Christian Coalition just leaves him in a bloody pulp. That's basically what they did here. Tazz...
But worse.
But way worse, and really did not do anything for Tazz to elevate him to the next level.
Achieved nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
You can't even call this a bathroom break match, because by the time you got to the bathroom, this whole thing would have been over.
Oh, yeah. No, you would have walked past Kurt Angle, who, ironically enough, Tazz choked out at the Royal Rumble the month before. I guess Vince McMahon already forgot about that by this point. Kurt was shown in the concourse. By the time you would have passed Kurt with a megaphone talking about abstinence, this match would have been over. Easily would have been over. But,
yeah.
I mean... I can't really rate this. I mean, I could give it 0 stars, but I mean, the action was fine for what it was. But when the post-match...
Say what you want about Henry and Viscera, at least that was a match.
Yeah, the post-match beatdown was longer than the actual match itself. Think about that for a minute. Tazz and Bossman in a hardcore match would have been a lot of fun, but
how about
alas.
You take that 4 minutes that you wasted with those 2 matches we just talked about and gave them to this next match.
Please?
X-Pac versus Kane.
Yeah.
No holds barred match.
This is the most personal, aside from the main event, this is the most personal feud on the entire show. Bar none.
Talk about a roller coaster watching this video package.
Fuck,
From
man.
Pac and Kane being the best of friends, being kind of thrown together and becoming this endearing tag team that you just liked, you know, and you rooted for, to Pac turning his back on Kane to get with Tori, Kane having to defeat Triple H and the Big Show in a handicap match to get this no-hold-barred match with X-Pac, with all the shenanigans going back and forth, with Undertaker not even being in the picture. So this was Kane's real opportunity to shine on his own. And all of this stuff is culminating in this, you know, I love the build. I love the build to this match.
Yeah. The gimmick is that Kane has no friends, basically, until his father, Paul Bearer, comes back into the mix, his kayfabe father, after he had, you know, screwed over Kane at Survivor Series. Kane! I'm back not to screw you, boy! I'm here to help you against this punk kid! I'm working on it, my friends, but... I definitely agree. This is a feud that a lot of people joke never ended, but it's organic storytelling. X-Pac and Kane became the best of friends in the summer of 1999, winning the tag team championships together. X-Pac betrays Kane down the line and eventually steals Kane's girlfriend away, his first love. And here we are. Here we are. It's pro wrestling.
Kind of like a certain tag team that's going on today, but like me and Zack are talking about, I'm not quite ready for them to split up just yet. Let's continue having fun with these guys.
Do not split up RK Bro just yet. They just won the tag titles.
I know. Here's the thing. Let's throw this out right now. I know we said this like in May of last year. We know. But as of last week, we realized this has a lot more gas in the tank than WWE realized. If they didn't get it over as they did, the split would have happened already.
Oh, yeah.
But Vince is looking at that merch sales. He's looking at that pop, and he's looking at the matches and go like, nah, this isn't going.
And he's looking at Randy Orton. He's looking at Randy Orton himself, and he's having the time of his life doing this shit with Riddle right now. So,
why end it?
What? Yeah, exactly.
I know we're going off on a tangent. I know this is unrelated, but here's my theory about everything, or not my theory, my take on it. You end it now. What does Randy Orton do after that? What does he do?
I don't know. Go after the
world title.
Go after the WWE title again. I mean, that's what's going to happen. You're going to have 2 world titles again, guys. It's not a unification, but anyway, we're not talking about WrestleMania right now.
You elevate Riddle, and that's great and all, but where does Randy Orton go? No, let's have some more fun.
More fun. More fun. And this match was more fun, for sure. These guys brawled all over the freaking arena. X-Pac tries to climb the miniature Hell in a Cell structure that's making up the ring stage area, which I actually did not mention at the top of this pod. That's what I love about the year 2000 as well, is the unique pay-per-view entrances. No Way Out 2000 had this. I miss them so much, man. Makes every show feel so unique to itself. And this show, because of our main event, had a miniature Hell in a Cell structure that the guys walked out of, and it's literally just like a tunnel in the entranceway. It's so cool. X-Pac, for some reason, tries climbing the mini cell structure to get away from Kane, to no avail, because Kane is basically taller than this whole tunnel by itself. They're brawling around ringside. Kane is using a guardrail. A trash can is thrown in there as a weapon. Tori. Oh, poor Tori. She gets involved, and JR says, yeah, give it to her. It was a different time.
Yeah.
But Kane gives Tori a tombstone pile driver. The crowd pops for it, and JR is going ballistic. And Kane reintroduces the steel steps that had been brought into the ring. X-Pac hits a spinning heel kick and surprise upset pins Kane with the steel stairs in the middle of the ring. Remember what you were saying about how this was the culmination of their feud? I don't think the heel going over here would be the end of it.
No. And it was
That's not how the story
finish to a very good feud, a very short match that should have went longer. And you think Kane would get his heat back at WrestleMania? No, he doesn't.
Not really. He sort of does. I mean, it's a tag match, but, they had already done a cage match. They had already done a no-holds-barred match. Where do you go from here? Where do you go from here between Kane and X-Pac?
I know exactly where they go from here.
Oh, shit. Oh, no, I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that. No.
Imagine in 2015.
No.
When Miro low-blow John Cena and beat him to retain the United States title at Fastlane. Imagine if they just ended it there. And then
I remember
Cena
that.
Got a random tag team partner, and Miro got a random tag team partner, and then Cena didn't pin Miro at WrestleMania.
Oh, that would have been so weird, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Imagine if Lana got into the ring and then Nikki Bella came in and was like, "Nuh-uh, you ain't stepping close to my man." He got a mixed tag match. But this is I agree. This match only went 8 minutes, give or take. It definitely should have gotten longer for the feud that this was. You could have at least doubled that time, and it would have been still equally as fun, if not more fun. But as it is, 2 3/4, it was solid. The guys worked well together. They knew each other well enough at that point, so their chemistry was top-notch. X-Pac, again, really never gets enough credit for how great of a worker he is in the ring. And Kane, say what you want about Kane right now, but back then, Kane knew how to work a big man, little man match. And it's a weird dynamic having Kane as the babyface here, being the bigger guy.
Yeah, it worked. It worked very well, though.
I agree.
Yeah.
For sure.
You want to talk about a match that's random, but I enjoy
Yeah. This match was so fun. So you have Rikishi teaming up with his buddies, Too Cool, who he eliminated from the Royal Rumble the month before. They're taking on the new... Yeah, forget about it. It's every man for himself. They are taking on the brand new stable who had just defected from WCW at the time, known as the Radicalz, comprised of Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, and Perry Saturn, and they have an unfortunately injured Eddie Guerrero in their corner. Eddie, unfortunately, had dislocated his elbow off of a nasty frog splash on a TV taping about a month prior to this, so he was on the shelf for a little bit. Right as soon as he came into the Federation.
Reminded me of that.
Yeah, so... yeah, Eddie walks out with a sling. Rikishi's ankle is taped out the wazoo because the Radicalz were targeting that ankle so much in the build to this. They had Pillmanized it. They had put submission holds on that thing. They wanted to make sure that the strongest member of this trio was at his weakest going into it. And I think that's a brilliant story.
Very rare trios match that consisted of two established factions.
Yeah.
And may I say, this was really good. I think Benoit, Malenko, and Saturn were working, Too Cool very well. It kind of really put over that Rikishi, Scotty 2 Hotty, and Grandmaster Sexay, they're not just gimmicks.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Solid workers, too.
I'm sorry, correction. Rockishi, as JR is calling him at this point. Rockishi. Why does he call him that? Why does he mispronounce it at this point? Like, I mean, JR has a history of mispronouncing names, but him calling him Rockishi at this point? Sin Cara. I'll never forget that. Chris Benoit, I mean, this is his first WWF pay-per-view match after leaving WCW. He had just won the big gold belt. He had just won the big one, which is a forgotten reign in WCW Championship history.
It to Sid the very next night on Nitro.
He sure did, because Vince Russo's a freaking idiot, apparently, at that point. But
yeah, and then I don't want to jump.
Didn't know what he had.
This would be in the bill for the next match. But don't forget, also, Benoit got a huge upset victory over The Rock.
He did. He sure did.
Pay-per-view.
Benoit would wrestle The Rock a lot in the year 2000.
Yeah.
If there was one star that Vince saw in this whole group at this point in the year 2000, it was Benoit. He was looking at all four guys, and he's like, if I could only push one, it would probably have to be Chris Benoit. I mean, no disrespect to Malenko, Saturn, or, bless his soul, Eddie Guerrero. It was going to be Benoit in Vince's eyes.
That's the unfortunate thing about this match. Just kind of realized that as good as workers these are, Malenko and Saturn were never going to make this was going to be their peak in WWE. Yeah,
but it's a very, very, very energetic six-man tag team match. Everybody is getting their high spots in. Motherfucking Scotty 2 Hotty hits the worst finisher in wrestling history, the worm on Perry Saturn. The guy lays there for 20 seconds as Scotty does his stupid dance and waiting for it to sell.
Kind of like the people's elbow.
Yeah. I love The Rock, but I hate the people's elbow. So I will say that to my grave.
Hey, give them the credit. John Cena has admitted that the people's elbow and the five knuckle shuffle are the stupidest finishers in wrestling history.
The five knuckle shuffle. No, the difference was the five knuckle shuffle was not a finisher. It was a signature move. It was one of Cena's 5 moves of doom, but it wasn't the attitude
The
adjustment.
Rock won matches with the people's elbow.
Cena never won with the five knuckle shuffle, not once. I cannot remember a time where Cena ever won with that maneuver. But Scotty 2 Hotty won matches with the worm. I mean, granted, they were on Heat or Jacked, whatever signature, secondary, not even secondary, tertiary dark elevation style program WWF had at that point. Scotty won matches with the worm. So it wasn't no, I hate it. I hate it. It's not like the Rikishi driver, right?
Yeah. It at least when Otis did the caterpillar, at least it was a 300-pound man coming down on you with an elbow. That hurts.
Scotty's a fucking cruiserweight doing that shit. He's not even jumping on them. He's hitting a chop.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, it's a chop, not even to the throat. It's like a chop to the shoulder.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally.
Also, Santino Marella and his Cobra Strike would like to have a word with you.
Don't remind me about the fucking Cobra. But So Rikishi, I mean, this is like this is typical. Rikishi is basically the hot tag guy. If Too Cool are the smaller guys that are taking the heat from the Radicalz very methodically.
Which the chemistry worked very well, because if you're the Radicalz, why would you not? That would be your goal. Why,
exactly.
No, Rikishi's the big man. He's the heavyweight. He's gonna mow everybody down.
He's a super heavyweight.
You gotta be smart and realize that. Why would you want to let them tag the bigger man in when you know you're going to lose to him?
You can't. Also,
the chemistry worked really well with the Radicalz being the heels, and the heels have a slower offense. The more, methodical, working on the because what do the babyface like to do? They like to fly all over the ring. They like to hit high cross body blocks. You don't want it. You want to snap out their offense. You don't want the audience to have a good time.
They like to put stink faces on Chris Benoit. That's I bet all the viewers forgot about that. Chris Benoit's first ever pay-per-view match, he took a stink face from Rikishi. I want to talk about a nice welcome into the Federation. But I mean, this is just fast and furious towards the end of this match. I had no clue who the legal men were. Judging from the play-by-play, it would be Rikishi and Dean Malenko, which would eventually get to a point Rikishi hits the Rikishi driver, then a bonsai drop shortly after that with the bum ankle to pin Dean Malenko in the middle of the ring after a very, very fast-paced 13-minute trios tag match here. I'm giving it 3 3/4. I really dug this match. It was
fun.
Yeah, number 3 match on the show for me. I thought it was definitely... I think it was actually better than Edge and Christian versus the Hardys, if I'm being honest.
It was fun. It was a very fun match.
Crowd was into it. I mean, I was into it. I was getting all hyped up towards the end. It was that's the best way to describe it. It's fun. Absolute fun.
And now it's time for your penultimate main event. And this one has a bit of history to it. It's the Big Show versus The Rock in a number 1 contenders match for the WWF Championship. But didn't we just say that The Rock won the Royal Rumble? No, my friends. You go back and watch that footage.
The Big Show won that Royal Rumble.
The Big Show won because when at that camera angle, you cannot see it. And it's weird because they had to jump through so much hoops when they could have just said, let's look at that footage. That's part of the build. When The Rock pulled the Big Show out of the ring, his feet were securely anchored on the ground, and Big Show went out. Vince, if you wanted The Rock to win, you can't pretend that he won when he didn't.
Yeah.
You can't do that. I don't know if that was intentional
Rocky.
If that was intentional for the story, or if The Rock just straight up fucked up.
I don't know, man. I don't know. But you know what? These are two young studs entering this match, and
Big Show is running all over the place. I think Triple H was the acting commissioner at the time, because Shawn Michaels was nowhere to be seen at this point.
Yeah, it was the weird McMahon-Helmsley era where the WWF champion held all the power. It's like 2009 TNA here. So
Big Show's running to Triple H. He says, I won the Royal Rumble. Rock's feet hit the floor first. Like, okay, I need you to show me photo proof. And he shows him photo proof. And Triple H says, no, that's not good enough. I need you to bring an eyewitness. So Big Show brings in a security guard that's clearly there in the front row for the Royal Rumble. And the security guard says, yeah, Rock's feet hit the floor first. Triple H says, that's still not enough. I need video proof.
It's like beating around the bush.
They could have just skipped A and B and went straight to C because the footage shows everything. And they said, the Rock's feet hit the floor first. So
they absolutely
how are they going to fix this little debacle? A number 1 contenders match at No Way Out. Big Show and Rock are at each other's throats. Big Show cost a match from The Rock against Benoit. So Big Show's going into this match with a lot of momentum.
Yeah. And if you guys are ready to feel old at this point in the podcast, at this point in the year 2000, ladies and gentlemen, The Rock and the Big Show are 27 and 28 years old respectively. And both of them are going for a WWF championship match at this point, at the biggest show of the year.
Now they're nearing 50. They're nearing 50. Paul White still has a job in a professional wrestling company.
Yep.
And The Rock it's only a matter of time till he's back in the ring again.
Biggest box office draw in the world is going to be facing the Tribal Chief in SoFi Stadium. I can feel it. I get to see my favorite wrestler of all time live. But Anyway, this match, The Rock, this crowd was into everything The Rock was doing, but the thing is, I mean, the Big Show was still learning how to put on a good match at this point. He, even with his WCW days behind him, like, he was still in his developmental phases. The Rock at this point was capable of putting on a fantastic wrestling match. This, by The Rock standards, was fairly basic. These guys were hitting their biggest hits on each other for sure. Show was hitting.
You know what? It's still better than any match Rock ever worked with The Undertaker.
I would agree with that. This match, unlike Rock versus Taker at No Way Out 2002, which was one of our first podcasts we ever did way back when, this match was never boring. It really wasn't, because you really felt the stakes of this match.
I think
whole way through.
This match served its purpose. It wasn't supposed to be a classic wrestling match. It was just supposed to be David versus Goliath, The Rock trying to take down this big mountain of a man and dodging his offense, Big Show hitting his moves, Rock hitting his moves, and just, it was a fun match.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is the referee for this match was Earl Hebner. And he's doing a count, and referee Tim White takes over after Earl Hebner takes a ref bump, and this is playing into their altercation that they got into during the opener, which is kind of interesting. Tim White is making a count, Earl Hebner comes to, and he pulls Tim White out of the ring, and then they get into an argument on the outside, and that leads to the big angle of this match. Shane McMahon comes out to his father's entrance music.
Which is still weird.
I know. Somehow, some way, he's not ruining a Royal Rumble match at this point in time, in his early stages. But
I think Shane should have won that Royal Rumble.
What? No.
I think Shane should have won.
No. Fuck Shane McMahon at this point. No, he fucking ruined that match. Don't Madcap Moss eliminate AJ Styles, please. But... yeah, so The Rock hits a rock bottom, goes for the people's elbow. Shane McMahon shock and swerve, grabs a steel chair, smacks The Rock right across the face with it. Show hits a choke slam on the chair. Big Show pins The Rock, and he's going to WrestleMania.
Who saw that coming?
A lot of people were shocked back in the day that Shane cost The Rock this opportunity here. But I mean, Shane was a heel. He was the preppy kid heel throughout the entire year 1999. It's like they forgot that Shane was the preppy who was all annoyed that his sister was going to go marry Test. Like, the spoiled little brat heel is cheered upon his return, and then he goes to help the biggest heel in the promotion, literally speaking, go to WrestleMania.
Which, again, we are planting the seeds for the worst WrestleMania main event of all time.
No, this is better than Lawrence Taylor versus Bam Bam Bigelow. I'm sorry. But okay, this fine. Was
we are planting the seeds for one of the worst gimmicks in WrestleMania history.
Yeah, one of the worst gimmicks in WrestleMania history for sure. But
one of the polls has been set. Technically two.
Yeah, speaking of poll, if you want to hear us talk about that wretched main event, you can vote for it on my Twitter account, by the way. A few people have voted for it already. We're still taking them.
This is how I'm looking at it. Do you want us to have a good time with WrestleMania 10? Or do you want us to hate ourselves and all of you by making us review WrestleMania 2000? The choice is up to you.
It sure is. It sure is. So make sure you vote. I'll give you guys more time. But this is, for The Rock and the Big Show at No Way Out 2000, this is a 2.5-star match, but I certainly liked this more than any match The Rock would have with The Undertaker. This was better than No Way Out 2002's match, better than the WWF title match at King of the Ring 1999, which a lot of people tend to forget that The Rock faced the Ministry iteration of The Undertaker. But it was fun. Shocking ending, but, could have certainly been way better than it was. The Big Show was still developing into a better worker at this point. He hadn't fell off his rocker in 2001. But
now we get into what this pay-per-view is most famous for. Other than Pac and Kane.
Not X-Pac and Kane, indeed. Here we are, main event of the evening. Triple H is defending his WWF title against Cactus Jack in a rematch from the previous month, one of the best WWF title matches in history in that street fight in Madison Square Garden. But this time they have Hell in a Cell surrounding them. But in this time, if Cactus Jack loses, he has to retire. So big stakes going into this. And let me just say for the record, I've seen this match many times. I certainly think it's an upper echelon Hell in a Cell match in terms of storytelling and intensity. This was not better than the street fight, though. At least in my eyes.
Absolutely. Here's the thing. Here's the difference between the Royal Rumble and this match. The Royal Rumble match is memorable from beginning to end. The Hell in a Cell match is only famous for a couple of spots. And at the end of the day, this spot still takes a backseat to Taker and Mankind. From
it does.
Ring 98.
It was like trying to capture light.
Yeah.
It was like you're trying to capture lightning in a bottle again, and they couldn't quite do it. I mean, this isn't like discrediting anything Mick Foley did or anything he sacrificed in this match, but like it was very apparent that they were really trying to capture what Undertaker and Mankind had done like a year and a half prior.
I actually recently was listening to a bunch of interviews with Foley because, believe it or not, shocker, that's like the number one question he gets asked. And
does it hurt?
Some interviews. Basically, I watched some interviews and I actually went back to rewatch that match. The difference between that match and this match, everything that happened at King of the Ring was almost not planned. Everything that happened in this match was telegraphed and you saw it a mile away.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
As it was, Taker throwing Foley off the cell. Apparently, that was almost on the fly because remember, Taker was wrestling that match hurt. He had just gotten like hip surgery at that point, didn't he? Yeah, Taker wanted to go home, and as Foley famously says, Taker told Foley to go home, and Foley said, "I don't care if you're the Undertaker. Nobody tells me when to go home." So they went to the top of that cell. Taker chokeslammed him through the cell, and Foley almost dies. Because the chair almost hit him in the head.
I thought Taker had said something different. I thought he had looked into Mick Foley's eyes and said, "Hey, are you okay there, fella? Oh, doggone it, that was one humdinger of a landing there, pal."
No, what he actually said was, "Go home.
Go home."
And nobody tells me when to go home.
Go watch Mick Foley talk about that Hell in a Cell match on Inside the Ropes. It doesn't do it justice, but
it's one of my new favorite WrestleMania traditions now. Listening to Over the Ropes interviews with Foley, Jericho, Cody Rhodes, Edge, Paul Heyman. It's great.
Yeah, it's a lot. They're a good bunch of interviews, but I mean, early on, you know what was weird about this cell match is that the cage did not lower until both guys were in the ring. And that was for a planned spot at the very beginning. When the cell was lowered, the whole idea was Cactus wanted to go to the top of the cell. But Triple H and Steph were trying to prevent that by any means necessary. So the cage is lowered, Cactus goes outside the ring, and he sees all these padlocks around the cell door. And Steph, the little, the little annoying person on the outside is like, "There's no way out, Cactus! No way out!" I'm like, geez, you be quiet
again,
now.
To all of you little kiddies out there that thought that 2014 Stephanie was annoying, you don't know shit.
Nope.
Even more shrill and more annoying. And her hair annoyed me, and I just hated Stephanie when I was a kid so much.
I'm sure Stephanie is a sweetheart in real life, but oh my god, she gets on your nerves on television. But, I mean, these two are brawling all over ringside. This is like your typical like deathmatch style wrestling that made Mick Foley famous all those years ago. They're using the steel stairs. They're using steel chairs. I don't think Triple H went for a sledgehammer at this point in the match, but
I still think this match had very good storytelling because Triple H is the king. Triple H is the king when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Triple H is the king when it comes to sledgehammers, and he's also apparently the king of blading hard inside the Hell in a Cell,
like he did in this match.
Yeah, and it wasn't even from a barbed wire shot. It wasn't from any sort of weapon. Cactus Jack just catapulted Triple H into the cell wall. And that just really puts over the brutality of what Hell in a Cell, if I can English, should be. You know,
Heck in a sec.
Heck in a sec. Let me just say this: heck in a sec does not work if you don't have blood. That's, I mean,
Basically.
it can. I mean, you can have a great match inside there without any blood, but like, it really does not put over the
Unless
intensity.
your name is Edge, then yeah.
Unless your name is Edge and/or Seth Rollins and/or Sasha Banks and/or Bayley.
I'm the Undertaker.
Or the Undertaker, yeah. Or the Undertaker.
Undertaker from SummerSlam 08, and that match had no blood.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that was a great Hell in a Cell match. Stay tuned for, like, 2027 when we eventually get to that. But, but this match, I mean, I loved it. I didn't love it as much as the street fight. These two crack open the cell wall upon impact. I think Cactus, like, had speared Triple H through the cell wall. And then Cactus sees the opening, and he's like salivating at the thought of climbing up to the top. Yep. So what happens is, ironically enough, he grabs Barbie from underneath one of the announce tables. I guess they had hidden it prematurely before the match to make sure the Cactus didn't get to it, but they ran away from him faster than you can say freaking dude love. He pulls out
Thankfully,
Barbie.
Foley did not threaten any of the Spanish commentators this time with it.
That's good. He did not punch Hugo Savinovich in the face. So he grabs Barbie. Triple H starts climbing up to the top of the cell. And trying to get away from Foley, Mick knows better. He climbs up the cell wall. Triple H basically sees that. He starts punching him until Cactus falls to the Spanish announce table in a very similar spot to the very first Hell in a Cell match. Very similar Shawn Michaels bump from back in the day. But, I mean, that was a sick bump. Triple H was waiting up there. Cactus, of course, gets right back up like the beast he is. And it takes him literally like a full 5 minutes or so to throw a fucking steel chair up to the top. Did you notice that?
Yeah,
like he was having such a hard time getting the chair up there. And granted, he had just fallen off of a fucking like cage wall through an announce table, so I wouldn't expect him to pull that off. But that was, you know, it was kind of awkward just like seeing the camera like cut to Hunter like standing there waiting for the chair to get up there. But the best Cactus Jack matches come from Mick Foley just improvising. He just climbs up to the top of the cell, and he's just going to beat Triple H up without a weapon. Eventually, he takes Barbie back. How does he top Royal Rumble 2000? Barbed wire baseball bat is not enough. Pulls out a freaking lighter, sets the damn thing on fire, and he nails Triple H in the face with it. Somehow, Triple H does not get, like, first-degree burns from it, you know, like you would get from...
He gets first-degree burns from his entrance at WrestleMania 29.
Yeah, with dry ice and not fire.
Yeah.
You know, that just...
Triple H has the worst of luck.
Take it from two actors. Dry ice is no joke, my friends. Don't mess with it. But, yeah, very creative ways to get out of the ring. Very creative spots at this point. But we get to the big high spot of the night. Do you want to talk about this?
Triple H. Cactus Jack is setting up for a pile driver on top of the cage. And Triple H reverses it, back body drop. Foley goes crashing through that cell ceiling, and he splats all over the mat. I'm surprised he didn't look like a bug with his limbs all over that ring, because he landed hard.
He
and
did.
I think that was the match where Foley said if that steel chair was an inch closer, it would have struck him right in the temple.
It would have rung his bell for sure. But that is, I mean, that's an iconic Hell in a Cell visual of the ring caving in after Foley had gone through the roof. And for somehow, some way, after taking that big spot, JR said that crazy son of a bitch is moving. And indeed he was. He was climbing out of that hole. The crowd was chanting, Foley, Foley is God for a reason. Triple H hits one more pedigree, and JR wanted Cactus to kick out so badly, but he doesn't. Triple H is put over clean in the middle of the ring, and your main event of WrestleMania 2000 is Triple H versus The Big Show. Can't wait to talk about that match.
Yeah.
Wait, does that not happen?
Match.
What? You're telling
No.
me Triple H versus the Big Show does not happen?
No. It
This
kinda
was all-
happens.
This was all worthless then. Yeah, but
So you mean to tell me that the Big Show won a number one contenders match and Triple H won a match where the loser retires and somehow both of the losers end up in the main event of WrestleMania still?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if that's a cliffhanger, I feel like that cliffhanger alone is going to get WrestleMania 2000 the win in the poll.
My word. My word. I'm scared to see the results now, but Cactus Jack does get the standing ovation as he leaves the XL Center, as it's known in Hartford, Connecticut. JR says, "Thank you, Foley," and the crowd is, cheering him on his way out. We'll see him again in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, see you in 2 weeks when you're added to the WrestleMania main event out of sympathy from.
And then we'll see you in 2004. Then we'll see you in 2006. Then we'll see you in 2007.
But let's be real here. This was the end of Mick Foley as a full-time competitor in the ring. Like, he would have a match with, he would have the main event of WrestleMania 2000, of course. But after that, his appearances were very sporadic in ring-wise. He would become the commissioner after this. But as a full-time performer, this was it. This was it for Mick Foley. His body could not stand no more at the King of the Ring 98, notwithstanding this match, the street fight. I mean, he put himself through hell. And
I Quit match.
The I Quit match, where my buddy Kevin said The Rock killed Mick Foley. Clearly he did not.
He did.
He did, but Mick Foley is still alive and well. He's not in the ground yet, but, Mick deserves, some time off. And, can't really thank him enough for all he did to entertain us and put his body on the line.
This cell match, I want to say 4 1/4. It was very good, very iconic, but like you said, it's not the street fight. I still think both of these guys delivered very well in this match, and it's a very solid cell match that's worth going back and looking at.
I'm going 4.5. I thought this cell match was outstanding. I think the spots were very creative. Very much unlike King of the Ring 98, very much unlike the original one from Bad Blood 97. They did a lot to make this one stand out. This is easily the best match on this show. But like we said, it's no street fight. We don't have the thumbtacks in here. We don't have, they tried to top the thumbtacks with fucking fire, because that'll be what's more painful.
Wait a minute. What do you mean Boss Man versus Undertaker from WrestleMania 15 isn't your favorite ladder Hell in a Cell match?
It's a ladder match now. There was an object hanging in that match. It just wasn't what you would be thinking.
That wasn't your favorite cell match?
It's not. It's not. I just like Taker's spooky entrance in that match. But No Way Out 2000, I think, is held up for sure by that cell match. Triple H and Cactus Jack carried this show. But you had a lot of fun matches on the undercard. Great opener for the IC title. This is an 8 out of 10 pay-per-view for me, easily. I think it's great.
This was a very fun pay-per-view. Yeah, we had some stinkers on there, but I do think the good outweighs the bad. And,
very much
this
so.
was more on the shorter side. This was on the shorter side, and it had some, we make jokes, but I think at the end of the day, this pay-per-view as a whole is definitely worth your time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So what would you rate it? If you had to give it a rating.
I think I'm going to go a little under and say 7.75, because there was some really good stuff, but nothing too over the top that made me go, this was solid. Very solid.
Yeah, I would argue that this is worth your time. The year 2000, in my opinion, is the best year the WWF had in terms of pay-per-view quality, which is kind of ironic considering what WrestleMania would be that year. But I definitely think this show is worth your time. And thank you guys for voting this in so very much. And make sure you guys vote on that WrestleMania poll. We'll be talking about your retro WrestleMania of your choosing in a couple of weeks. We'll also be continuing our 2003 retrospective, and it looks like we're going into the year 2004. I think we're just, I think, Tomas and I have been thinking about it for a while, and we're like, 2004 is too good of a year to not talk about. So definitely stay tuned for that.
Don't worry, guys.
Yeah, definitely stay tuned for all that and much, much more. We also have the most stupendous 2-night WrestleMania in history, where apparently Cody Rhodes is showing up. So definitely stay tuned for all that. So hit that subscribe button as hard as you possibly can to stay up to date. And, let us know what you thought of No Way Out 2000 in the comments. Let us know what you'd like to see us review for that Retro WrestleMania poll. And the poll itself is on my Twitter account, which I will put in the description box below. Other than that, thank you all so much for tuning in and listening. And see you guys for the next one. See you on the flip side.